Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leja, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Hi, I'm Don McLaughlin. I'm a candidate for House District 80, which consists of Webb County, Uvalde County, Dimmitt County, Zavala County, Frio County, and Atascosa County. I'm also a small businessman, and I know what it takes to run a small business. And for too long, we've had too much government regulation coming into our small business and making it tougher and tougher for us to survive and get by. And that's one of the things I hope to change. Small business is the backbone of the state of Texas, and we need to make sure it thrives and that they have the support they need in government and less government regulation.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, Honorable Lori Brissette, who's running for Court of Appeals District.
Fourth Court of Appeals.
Fourth Court of Appeals. How are we doing today?
Hi, nice to see you.
It's a pleasure.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, no, we're happy to have you. And we need people, like, we've been talking back and forth. We need people with a kind heart to be up there, to be able to have that gavel in their hand. Because that gavel makes a sound, and that sound can hurt, destroy, help. It's a very powerful sound.
And I don't think a lot of people realize how powerful it is and how dangerous it is in the wrong hands.
Absolutely, absolutely. To get the viewers more in tune, talk a little bit about yourself and what the Court of Appeal does.
So I'll first tell you about the court and then why I'm on it. So the court has, if you think about the trial courts, everybody knows trial courts where a jury makes a decision, witnesses are presented. You have civil courts, criminal courts, family courts. In 32 counties of Texas, which is most of the Texas-Mexico border, all of South and West Texas, that's the fourth appellate jurisdiction. And basically, in any of those courts across 32 counties, whoever loses in the trial court has the right to appeal it to a higher court. And our role as the Court of Appeals, that higher court, is to make sure that the trial courts are applying the law correctly, that they've provided a fair forum, that we are making sure that people are treated well by the law, right? And I'm on it. I started running in December, but eventually I was appointed by the governor in July, early July. And I'm filling out a 6-month term left by somebody who retired. But in order to say I have to be elected. And you think about my background, I've been an attorney for 30 plus years. I started out as a former briefing attorney for the Texas Supreme Court, was board certified appellate work, which is in this court. And then I was appointed by the governor and elected twice by the people of Bexar County to serve as a district court judge in San Antonio. And I did a civil docket. I led the child abuse and neglect court. I led the family drug court. I have a lot of experience in that area.
Absolutely. You see, and a lot of people, you mentioned something great there, that you have a chance to go back and appeal a case if you've done when you've been a lawyer, how many cases have you seen that have gone to appellate court and been reversed?
I don't know exactly what the percentage is. I'll tell you, there are two types of cases that get to us. One is an appeal after a judgment is rendered that the trial court is done. That's an appeal. The other thing is called a mandamus. It's actually where you're complaining about what the trial court is doing during a proceeding.
Okay.
We usually won't take a mandamus unless there's something to be done to fix something, right? Otherwise, we'll just deny it outright. So most of those we reverse. In the appellate area, I'm not sure what the percentage is in terms of how many are overturned. I'll tell you, my big concern is there's a lot of people in the trial level that don't understand they have a right to appeal.
Okay.
And when they lose in the appellate court, they think they're just done, and the attorney doesn't really tell them that they have the right to appeal. Maybe you have an attorney that hasn't practiced in the appellate court, isn't comfortable in that area, and so there's a lot of things that happen in the trial court that aren't addressed at the appellate level.
Absolutely. That's what we say. You mentioned family court. Family court is kind of a conundrum because there's a lot of mixed feelings going on there. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there, and there's a lot of people that the ones that actually get hurt are the children in most cases.
Absolutely.
And one thing that
You're talking about divorce.
Right.
I call it divorce abuse.
Yes, absolutely. No, you're correct. And that abuse, it's always there. You know, it's been there. And the ones that get hurt are the kids. And everybody always points to the non-custodial parent. That's his fault. But you understand what I'm saying? That
The
alienation.
custodial parent has a lot of power with that child.
Right.
You know, I was on the bench, and then I got off the bench, and I did also family law as a private attorney, and I had some international cases, and I got to see how other countries handle their family law. And it's disturbing to me. It's never going to change, but it's disturbing to me that we have such an adversarial process in a divorce and custody matter, because what that's doing is it's encouraging the parents to fight when we need them to get along and co-parent. And I noticed when I was on the bench that I could probably water down what each of the parents was saying about it by about 30%, because they were trying to make things look as bad as possible. And I always felt like if a family actually went through the process and actually tried a case, they were never going to be able to get along, because they had been in that adversarial process for so long. They had lost the ability to see each other with respect as co-parents. And so I think the system we have right now does a lot of damage to families.
And I agree. And then, like I said, the ones that suffer are the kids. Because once that starts, it seems that parental alienation has been, the seed has been planted inside the courts. And once they realize that's there, it's kind of like it grows out. And that one parent takes over it, and all of a sudden starts watering it. And
I saw a lot of cases of parental abuse, child abuse, and I saw a lot of cases of parental alienation where they used abuse allegations to win a custody battle. It's sad, because when you have a case like that, it makes you question. Well, you should question every allegation of abuse, right? At one point before I'll tell you my whole history, but at one point in my career, I represented a dentist who had his former wife, her father was a police officer, and that we actually proved, I represented him in civil court and criminal court because the children had made an outcry. And we won every single hearing we had, and we won overall, proving that it was a made-up story. The problem was it took a year to get through that process, and by the time the year was over, the kids were so brainwashed. Even though he'd won, he was unable to build a relationship back with the kids, so he lost. And that who wins in that situation?
you see it, right? Exactly right. Once the claws of alienation are already dug in and those scars are already there, it's going to take that child into adulthood to be able to come out of it.
Right. And I always looked at cases of false allegations as, I felt like it was almost criminal, because you're convincing a child that they were abused when they weren't, and you can build that as an identity in a child's life, but also it diminishes the real stories of abuse.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That cry wolf kind of syndrome. And when it does happen, people are like, is it really happening?
And it happens.
And it happens.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of cases out there. And people need to be aware of that, and everywhere you go. Look at what happened it was in Kentucky, that just the judge got killed by the sheriff.
Oh,
because
yes.
He was abusing his daughter, apparently,
Yeah. It's real easy as a judge when you hear cases over and over, and it was a heavy job when I was a district judge. You heard some really horrible stories. And it's real easy after you've been on the bench for a while to feel like you've heard everything. and then you hear a snippet of a case and you're saying, oh, I've seen this story before, right? And you stop listening because you think you know what's going on. And it's real important. I had a plaque on my bench that said patience, because I had to remember every family was different, and I couldn't assume that it was the same as something I'd seen 2 months before, right?
No, you're correct. And it happens all the time. And there's a lot of things that are wrong, but family, I guess the family, I'm not saying that divorce is bad. Sometimes you have to, but just something, some people can't live together.
Yeah.
But if you have children, you have to take care of those children.
You're still parents.
That you're still parents.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact that you're not, you know what I'm saying? The parent, that you're a parent. And that, I think that's where a lot of people get confused.
Yeah, my husband and I have both been divorced, and when we got together, one of our requirements was to find somebody that was not in the drama of a divorce, right? And I tell people, you know, marriage just don't last forever, unfortunately. Divorce does.
Yes.
Divorce lasts forever.
And you're absolutely correct, because you're gonna see that person regardless, you know, you're gonna see that person at birthdays, weddings, the grandkid has, you know, his birthday, so you're always going to be around that individual, so you have to be civil about it.
And are you gonna take away the joy out of every moment for your child because they're worried about you two getting along or not getting along?
Exactly right. No, you're correct. You're correct. And that was a good choice. A lot of people don't think that way. And I tell folks, because we're always dealing, especially with the father's advocacy and parental alienation advocacy. You hear the stories, and it's kind of a pattern. You can tell when they're being egged on to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, you're being coached to do it. You can see it. You see the pattern, and you see that pattern building. And, you know, there's laws for it, and the laws aren't even taken care of. You know, there's 2503, which is interference with child custody, which is state jail federal. Never has there been one prosecuted. Now they're kind of, because in the last 10 years or so, people have been yelling. But we changed it because of an incident that occurred here. It kind of went forward, and it took 2 sessions, and it changed. And it changed to the point that a municipality can vote it in for a tariff of $500.
Oh, wow. But our municipalities enforcing it?
No, and Laredo passed. There hasn't been one ticket issued since last year. They don't even know it's in the book.
And well, part of it might be, it's just so difficult to know without a full-blown hearing. Even sometimes with a full-blown hearing, it's so hard to know who's telling the truth. You have 2 people who act like they have the best interest of the children at their heart, but they're completely of opposite view. And it's very hard to know who's wrong, who's right, who's good for the children, who's bad for the children. You know, and I understand how it's putting the police in a bad position. However, I always said this to people in the court, that if you are a custodial parent or you're a possessory parent with possession, and you feel like giving the child back is not in the child's best interest, you have to come to court to get the order changed. You can't just decide to disobey the order.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And if you can't come to court to make that showing, then you don't have the proof, and you have to question whether you're right or you're just emotional.
Absolutely. You know, and when we were doing this, law came up, and Richard Raymond was one of the state representatives. Richard Raymond was one of the ones that, and we all kind of sat down with the district attorney, and we all sat down all from around trying to figure out, because a lot of police were saying, oh, it's because they say something's happening with the non-custodial parents abusing them and so forth. Okay, so we're not going to allow that to happen. But then the following month comes back, and it's the same thing. It does go forward. It's always the same story. So he said, why don't we just give them a ticket? So if we give them a ticket, you go to municipal court judge and say, this is what's happening. They have to put an investigation together. And you know what I'm saying? It's already set. And that's what happened. But the thing is, it's the enforcement. Sometimes people don't want to do that, you know, and it's kind of hard. You know, I've been in that situation. It's kind of hard because the police don't believe you. You're like, here's a court order. Here's you know, they don't believe you. And
you're to your point, as a non-custodial parent, it's harder because the police look at it and think, well, there's a reason the court gave the children as primary conservator to the other person, right?
And you're like, okay. So you know, it's hard, and for those.
But I
parents that
think that's why the legislature, that's not why, but I think one of the things you need to think about is the legislature made it where most cases should be joint primary conservatorship. But there's a lot of people that don't know that, and when they get divorced, they don't have the advice of a counsel, and they think, you know, mom's primary and dad's custodial. That's just the way it is, right? I think if you can make yourself joint primary conservators, you're in a better position.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it actually happened, and people need to look at it that way. But now changing that, and you said family, what other cases family-wise do you see?
Yeah, so my court has every kind of case that can ever be in a court of law comes to us. But when I was on the district court, I had divorce, custody, and I had child abuse and neglect on top of all my civil cases in the family drug court. So in family drug court, it rose out of child abuse and neglect court, where when we saw there, like I said, there were two types of parents in the child abuse and neglect case. There was the bad parent that was abusing a child and hurting them, and that's a criminal matter.
Sure.
And then you had the good parents that really wanted to parent a child, but they were impoverished and they were struggling. And I was always of the belief that taking a child out of a home because they are poor is not the answer. It's time to help that family, not hurt that family, not break them apart. But I think in those cases, we just have to figure out what's the point of the court, and that is to keep those families together. And so we created family drug court, where we found a lot of parents, not a lot, a percentage of the parents within the child abuse and neglect court that were good parents. They had a drug and alcohol problem, and if you take that out of their life, then the kids should be with these parents. And so we created a rehabilitation court called the family drug court. It's one of the first specialty courts in Bexar County. And we were able to have a strong percentage of kids that were returned to them. And so I just think, from my experience on the bench at that level, you just have to be very careful to not make assumptions about cases and understand where do you need to be tough and where do you need to act with empathy. And if you're not listening and treating every case on its own, then it's easy to get it.
Absolutely, yeah. And the schools also have to be doing something. And I think we have to change the subculture, not only macro, but at the macro level. Because the schools also have that, that's what I've seen. They kind of, it's the fault of the non-custodial parent. And we have to take that away.
Fault, what do you mean?
So if the child gets in trouble, starts doing drugs, starts missing, because number one, a lot of kids don't go to school. They don't have a way to go to school. They don't have clothes to go to school. They're not going to be. So there's the truancy effect of it. And a lot of times they blame the father. In the most cases here in the state of Texas, 94% of non-custodial parents are male. But what happens is that they'll blame the non-custodial parent. And they'll blame them for whatever rhyme or reason. If the child gets in trouble, whether it's truancy or whatnot, it's not the custodial parent's fault.
I've seen both. I've seen the point that I have, the issue I have with the family courts at that level is it's always everyone's pointing at each other, right? Rather than trying to figure out what's best for this child, what should we be doing as a team? It's everybody's pointing to the other person. It's their fault. That's the problem.
You're correct. You're correct. And that. I think that team is no longer there. You know, that old African proverb, it takes a community to raise a child. And I think we have to get back to that.
Well, and that the big problem that I see a lot of times in divorce situations is that team, that extended family. You know, when you get married, generally somebody turns to the parish and says, "Do you support this couple?" Right? Well, that's the team that's supposed to support that marriage and that family. And when you go through divorce, everybody picks their sides. And sometimes the extended family are the people that are egging on the conflict, right? Even if you have two people that are really working hard to try to get together and work together, they're treated by extended family as if, oh, you're being a doormat. Why are you letting him get away with that, right? And then the extended family is pushing them into conflict.
No, you're absolutely correct. And you're absolutely correct. You see that within the extended family.
There were quite a few times I had to respectfully ask mother-in-laws to leave the courtroom. Or best friends or brothers.
There's an old French saying, but and I'm gonna translate it, and it goes, "Gracious was Adam; he did not have a mother-in-law."
That's great. I gotta keep remembering that. I'm a mother-in-law now, so.
And I would always, when I heard that, I started laughing.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. Now, yeah. Now you're in the runoff. You're in the runoff.
So,
no,
in the general election, yeah.
When's early voting?
Early voting starts October 21st, and then election day is November 5th.
A month away.
Right.
Away.
We're getting there. I've been working on this all year long, and it seems like we're very, very close, but very far. I'm ready for November 6th to get here. But I've actually really enjoyed it. It's 32 counties. It's a very large area, and very diverse. And I've really enjoyed getting around and meeting people of all walks of life. I enjoyed that just when I was running in Bexar County. It's even on a grander scale here, but I enjoyed getting to know people.
And how are the people? They're very receptive.
Very, yeah. I've been very surprised that I feel like no matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent right now, everybody is united on the issues. We're not united on how we want to deal with those issues, but we're united on the issues. Start where we agree, and let's see where we can go from there. But no matter who I talk to, because I do a lot of block walking and visits around the jurisdiction, everybody's talking about crime, economy, border. It's the same three issues, no matter what door I knock on.
And the crime, and let's look at each one of them, separate them. How about let's take the crime. What's the main issues in crime? Is it?
I think people feel like, even though they're being told crime is down, they feel like crime is up.
You think the numbers are being played with?
I think I've spent 8 years in the business. I was CEO of one of the top 5 U.S. investment broker dealers, and I know that you can manipulate data to say whatever you want it to say. And I think people are going on what they feel and what they experience. And it's not just that, in Bexar County at least, it's not just that crime is happening. It's that it's not being addressed. My son was killed a year and a half ago in front of the Alamo.
Condolences.
Thank you. He was surrounded by 5 people and knocked out, and they stole his tennis shoes and his hat and left him for dead. And they have known who those 5 people are from a month after it happened. Only one of the 5 have been arrested, and I have no faith that justice is going to come out of that. And I think people are reacting to that yeah, we know crime is happening. It's not reducing. It's in our face. But more so, they don't have confidence that we've got our arms wrapped around. And I think when we're told that it's not, nothing's wrong here, nothing to see here, folks, keep moving, then it makes us feel like, okay, we know there's a problem, and they're telling us there's no problem. That means they're not doing anything about it.
No, you're correct. Do you think the problem lies, because we have a lot of, what I'm going to say next, we have a lot of great police officers.
Oh, yes. I'm a strong law enforcement supporter.
But at the same time, we have a lot of bad actors inside this department.
Yep.
And I feel, I was talking to a former officer from Louisiana, and then he told me, Paul, you know the percentage of good badges in the department? Actually, about 70%. No, about 20.
20% good badges?
And I looked at him and I said 20. And he goes, yeah. And it depends on where you're at. It might go up to 30.
Yeah.
Usually about 20. And I said, what are you talking about?
Is he a police officer? That's his anecdotal.
And then he goes, but bad badges between 10 to 15. I go, and how about the rest? They're complacent. They don't want to do anything about it.
Well, and you think about it, if you were a police officer and you were putting your life on the line every day to put cases together, and you send them to the DA and you see nothing happens with it, are you going to continue putting your life on the line?
And ever since then, it kind of just stuck in me, and I said to myself, well, how can we change that?
Yeah.
And I think we need laws to protect our good badges inside the department. Mm-hmm. We have, and those bad actors to be removed from carrying a badge.
Yeah.
And not play this musical chairs that they can move anywhere in the state with another department because they You know,
Yeah.
here's something here, here's internal affairs, and all of a sudden you show up in internal affairs, and all of a sudden they tell you, well, you have to resign, or you know, it's better for you to.
What I
You know
get,
what,
what
that
I
kind
get
of-
concerned
kind of
about
issues.
is, I think most people would agree, good cops need to be supported, and we need them out there doing their job. Bad cops need to be held responsible. Again, we all agree on that. What I get concerned about is when people think they know whether a cop did something wrong or right. It's very hard to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has been trained to do their job to protect us, and they're in a position where their lives are in danger, and judging what they do in that moment is very difficult. It's very difficult to parse out who the bad person versus the good person is.
And sometimes things occur that shouldn't have occurred, that will make a good person bad.
Yeah.
It looks bad, you know.
And I think
vice versa.
we have a hunger to hold police accountable right now, and I worry that we sometimes go overboard and we take good actors who found themselves in a very difficult position, and we're using them to say we're tough on the police, right? And you ruin somebody's career.
We need to protect them, but we need to make sure that we're doing it correctly.
Right. It's just like we were talking about when I was on the bench and I was listening to cases, and I had to have patience and hear all the evidence before I decided whether I'd seen that story before. In this situation, I think we jump to the conclusion, if there's a police shooting, that must be a bad cop. And I don't think we can jump to that conclusion.
No. They're there for a reason. They're a reason to protect and to keep the peace, maintain the peace. And I think we have to go back to that. You know, I have a lot of friends that are police officers in the UK and in France. You know, my teacher was one of the best police officers. He was a brigadier commander to the French anti-terrorist police, you know, and he used to protect President Mitterrand back then in France. And so I've always seen police officers to have a different standard.
Yeah.
And it's like a guard dog. The guard dog will bite you. But at the same time, you might sit down and let you pet him. Just depends on your character, right?
But if you can you imagine if you walk in and you know that dog is never going to bite you?
You know what I'm saying? So,
It's not a guard dog.
and that's what's happening now in many cities.
Yeah.
You know? And it's that lack of, you know, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, I don't know, but I think everybody has to come together. And those are the issues that you're saying, the crime. Did people lose faith? Is that basically what's happening?
I think people are wondering whether the leaders really understand what the problem is or how to do anything about it. And if you don't have confidence that that the problem is being addressed, you get more scared of the problem.
Absolutely. Now the border, what are they talking about the border?
It's different across different border counties, and I try to keep that in mind. There's not one solution, right? But I think Laredo, I hear a lot about the fact that they appreciate the border, that it's an economic tool for the city. I don't hear a lot of fear about the border. In Del Rio and Eagle Pass, same thing. They have a lot of commercial benefit from it. But across the board, I think what I hear a lot about is that people who are hardworking people are upset that benefits are being given to people that are not paying into the system. I also hear from people saying that I'm struggling, I'm not getting that help, right? It's a fairness issue, I think I'm hearing across the board. But the other thing I hear a lot, and that pertains to the court that I have, is the crime committed by illegal immigrants after they're here, and are they being held accountable? What I hear a lot are the feeling that they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
That we're more lenient on illegal immigrants than we are on people that are citizens of the country. And that's across the board, I hear that.
And the last, what they said, was the crime.
Economy.
Economy.
People are just struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see it. We see it all over the place.
Yeah.
We see it here. We see here within the martial arts world that we're in right now. You see a lot of families that used to have 2-3 kids. They'll pull them all out. So right now, like I tell them, I go, let's see how we can do something, and because it benefits the child especially there. Right now, the school just started,
Yeah.
and all we're getting a lot of bullying issues.
Yeah.
And that's detrimental with a lot of kids. And
When you have to wonder why that's happening, it's because their home life is stressful. People get under stress when they struggle, right? I saw a huge thing I saw on the court when I was on the district court level was just a general hopelessness when families are struggling and they don't have hope that it's going to get better. It comes out in a myriad of ways, including domestic violence, including bullying, including just stress.
No, you're correct.
Yeah.
You're correct. But like I said, you see that here. You see that change. You don't see those kids coming back
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. And then you question, you just took something out of somebody's life that could make a huge difference in terms of confidence and the path that they go on. Yeah.
That's what we try to do.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
And so just across the board, I feel like I'm hearing people that just want things to get better. They know it's not good right now in a myriad of ways. Yeah. In the court system, I think I talk a lot about the fact that we're in a world right now where we're so divisive we can't even have a conversation where we disagree with our best friend, or they won't be your best friend. Right?
I'm conservative.
Yeah.
So I could, and I really, about a bunch of issues I'm kind of laid back on.
Yeah.
If you want to put it that way, I'm kind of okay. Everybody kind of has to take care of their own, but we all have to take care of each other. Kind of the issues. And if you say I'm for Trump or I'm for Harris or whoever,
Yeah.
you're already losing friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people just stop, and you're like, no, too bad.
Families are breaking down.
Yes, we saw that in 2020. Now you're
Yeah.
seeing it again, and it's going to get worse from
Well,
here
and
to
you-
election day.
And we just talked about how people are struggling. That's when you need everybody around you. That's when you need the community, right? And I think what I see the way it impacts the courts is if I can't believe that my best friend could be reasonable and hear me out, then how am I going to believe that a human being can sit on a court in today's climate and truly be fair and impartial? And you see, I always say, if you're a Republican looking at the Democrat New York hush money trial judge in New York, you think he's on the take. If you're a Democrat looking at the Florida Trump-appointed judge in the documents case, you think she's corrupt. If you're looking at the Supreme Court of Texas ethical issues in the news, you just wonder, what is the judiciary really about anymore? And are these people really fair and impartial? And what I tell people is there is nothing magical about a black robe and a gavel that turns somebody into a judge, right? It comes from something character-driven deep inside. And unfortunately, it's a character trait that we don't see a lot of, and that's selflessness. It's an understanding that I am part of something bigger. I have a responsibility to a greater community need for a fair and impartial jury. It's not about what I want to happen in that case. When I put that black robe on, I'm no longer myself. I am an institution, right? And that means it doesn't matter what I want to happen in this case. It matters what the law tells me should happen in this case.
Absolutely.
And you think of how powerful judges are. And I always say this, I love it. I can take your children away. I can foreclose your home. I can cause you to pay your life savings to somebody else. I can shutter your business. And if I'm not willing to limit my power by saying, I'm not going to do what I want, I'm going to do what the law tells me to do, I'm going to live within that boundary, I can do anything.
And
to
that's
anyone.
and that is a problem. Look what's happening in Brazil right now. You got a judge right now that's just saying, you know what, we're going to remove everybody that has a voice with X, and that it's a dangerous, because like they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you can see that.
The only way to, this is the other part, the only way to hold a judge accountable is election. And I'm going for a 6-year term. That means you can't hold me accountable for 6 years. And then most people don't really pay attention to judicial elections.
No.
So.
And I had this conversation with another candidates running, and I said, maybe we just have to go down to 1 term, and that's it.
We need more judicial accountability. We need transparency. So right now, it's very hard to find out how many times has a judge been reversed, how many times has a judicial conduct complaint been made against that judge, What do the attorneys who practice in front of that judge think? There's no transparency around any of that. So I have a lot of people when I'm out campaigning asking me, like, how do I find out if this is a good judge or not? It's very difficult. Even if you go onto my website, I'm not overtly political because I shouldn't be as a judge. And so you go on my website, you can't really tell who I am as a person. You got to talk to me to figure that out. So I am absolutely committed to trying to increase the transparency. I want people to know about my record. And I want to own it. I want to be accountable to it.
That's it.
And anybody that doesn't want that, you got to ask why. As a judge.
As anything.
Yeah.
As anything, if you're in the public eye, I'm sorry, you have to be transparent. In whatever you do, you have a business that's open to the public. You have to be transparent. You can't hide. And it doesn't matter what you do. You have to be, if you're for the public, whether it's a service, whether it's a political elected position, people need to know exactly what.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a difference between that and your personal life, but when it comes to that business that's there, it has to be transparent to everybody else. Yeah. Especially if we hold construction companies before. We have OSHA, we have everything else that comes under that.
I think there's a lot of work to do on that. I think in the court that I'm on, one of the reasons I wanted to get on it was because there is a real lack of transparency. This court used to be the most efficient and effective court. And is it still going?
It should be, yeah.
This used to be the most efficient and effective court in the state in terms of productivity, backlog. You can see it at the court level, you just can't see it at the judge level. And now we're at the bottom of the list in terms of courts of appeals in Texas. In terms of productivity, backlog, time to render a decision, we're the worst court in Texas. And I'd like people to see why, right? And it's very hard to do that. But one of the things I've been telling people, I think they have a right to know, is that these judges went home during the pandemic, and a couple of them have never come back to the courthouse to regularly work with their colleagues.
That's on Zoom.
People should know that. Well, no, they're not even on Zoom. They're doing everything by email. And you can't be in a collegial body where we're sitting down trying to have intellectual debate about some really hard issues that directly and substantially impact people's lives by email.
No, I'm telling you. A lot of changes have to come up, and if we do not change them by a ballot box, I mean, there's another box that's out there. It's kind of harsh, but we don't want to go down that road. And I think that's where people are right now. They're tired of everything that's going on. After it woke up a lot of people in 2020. A lot of people just say, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" They just woke up, and now you're seeing people are paying attention to things they weren't paying attention before 2020.
Well, don't you think people just want everybody to do their job?
Absolutely.
Just do your job.
That's right. You're on point. You're on point. Absolutely, do your job. Be a person. Have common sense. You have common sense. I mean, are we going to throw a book on a kid that was caught vaping and ruining his life? Or we might
let the gang member go?
And let the gang member go. Exactly right, And you're like, seriously? Let's start coming back to basics.
Yeah, great.
It was a great conversation. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'm glad I did. Thank you.
Thank you. And
I didn't know the French connection.
Yeah, it is. It is a strike. The Brissette is a strike.
Yeah.
So we need you up to the strike good path.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Tell the folks out there, folks, study your candidates, research them, give them a call, see if you can help out in their campaigns. It's a lot of important positions right now, like this one, that needs good people, like our Honorable here. Okay, so if I were you all, come November, early voting, vote for Brissette here, Judge Brissette. Let's keep her on the bench.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure. Folks, we'll leave you with this. You all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all. Until next time. Much peace. Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.